Expansion of planning. Planning as a method of achieving faster economic progress. It has been tried by different countries at different times and at different levels. We may see them as under 1. Regional planning. It was at the regional level that planning was used as a part of development policy by any country for the first time. It was the USA which started the first regional planning after the Tennessee Valley Authority TVA was set up in 1916 for a large-scale rehabilitation in southeastern USA covering parts of 7 states, with the primary aim of flood control, soil conservation and providing electricity. The TVA/the regional plan was also involved in many related activities such as industrial development, forestry, wildlife conservation, town planning, construction of road and rail, encouraging sound agricultural practices, and malaria control in the defined region. 9. The U.S. experience of regional planning became such a success in realizing its well-defined goals that it emerged as a role model and an object of inspiration for many countries around the world in the coming decades. The Damodar Valley Corporation (DVC) in India 1948, the Volta River Project in Ghana 1966, etc. 2. National planning. The official experiment in the area of national planning is rooted in the Bolshevik Revolution of Russia 1917. The Soviet Union, dissatisfied with the pace of industrialization, it was in 1928 that Joseph Stalin announced its policy of central planning for the Soviet Union. The collectivization of agriculture and forced draft industrialization were other radical new policy initiatives announced by Stalin besides economic planning in 1928. 10. The Soviet Union went for its first 5-year plan for the period 1928 to 33, and the world was to have its first experience of national planning. The famous Soviet slogan, Great Leap Forward, was initiated for rapid industrialization through the introduction of economic planning at the national level. The nature and scope of Soviet planning, called the Gosplan, will have its direct or indirect bearings on all those countries which went for economic planning, be state or capitalist or mixed economies. India was to have direct influence of Soviet planning on its planning process. In the first Soviet plan, heavy industries was favored over light industry, and consumer goods were the residual sector after all the other priorities had been met. We see the same emphasis in the Indian planning process. 11. The Soviet model of economic planning spread to the East European countries, especially after World War II, and found its purest form of such planning in the People's Republic of China 1949. During the early 1940s, the concept of national planning was borrowed by France, and the world saw national planning being initiated by a hitherto capitalist economy as well as by a non-centralized political system, i.e., democratic system. France started economic planning at the national level after announcing itself as a mixed economy.